Hello there, this is Heirs to the Kingdom channel, and in today's lesson we're doing chapter 34 of Jeremiah. If you're new to this is a Bible study channel where we go through the Bible, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, book by book. And I don't skip anything, that's what God commands. So if you don't know the Bible well, I do recommend starting off at Genesis chapter 1 and getting caught up. And for the rest of us, well, so if you want to stick around and listen, you can get more than welcome to. I'm not going to kick anybody off the channel. Don't want them to. It's just, if you don't know the Bible all that well and you try to listen to just one chapter, you're going to not understand some of it. Because some other parts we already went over that helps explain each other area after. But today's chapter is titled, Rebukes the King. And I've had some long lessons lately. This one's pretty straightforward. It still goes off the teachings of you don't want to be on the wrong side of God's wrath. And don't disobey the Word of God. So, here we're going ahead and get started here. I said there's 22 verses. Got some good stuff in here to learn. And slavery is going to be in here. I'm going to explain more about it again once we get there. Because a lot of people like to always say, well, God supports slavery. I'm like, yes, He does. God supports voluntary slavery. He only supports forced slavery if you're being punished. But if you voluntarily enslave yourself to somebody because you want to be their servant, then that's a different ballgame. Just like being a Christian, in a sense, you have enslaved yourself to the Lord. It's now you live His way, no longer your way. And I went over this in the Bible before, and that's what the lessons teach us. But if you look at yourself as a slave instead of as an heir, someone that, gets to be with God, gets to obey the Lord, gets to read the Bible, instead of have to, if you get to, it's totally different. And a lot of people, they automatically want to reject things because it'll be something they have to do. But when you start seeing the world through the eyes of the Lord, you realize it's a blessing to get to do these things. Here in America, we're quite spoiled because we have freedom of religion, and you got some states have already fought against it and has already made the Bible illegal in some, preaching the Bible illegal in some states. They want you to skip parts of the Bible, forcing you to disobey God's commandment to add to or take away from the Word of God. So the attack on Jesus is at hand, even in America. But for most of the country, they don't really have an issue because they have freedom of religion and freedom of speech. But let's go ahead and get started into this lesson here. Remember, the title of this one says, Rebukes the King. Chapter 34, verse 1. The word which came unto Jeremiah from the Lord when Nebuchadnezzar... Now here's that one. We've already went over that. Actually, I think it was just yesterday. Might have been the day before yesterday. Or lesson before last. Whichever way you're listening to this, whether you're listening immediately or a couple of days after. But we got Nebuchadrezzar and Nebuchadnezzar. And it's actually the same person. It's just the king of Babylon. He'll write his name different from time to time, but it's still the same person. So we done cleared that up, so let's move on. And all his army and all the kingdoms of the earth of his dominion and all the people fought against Jerusalem and against all the cities thereof, saying, Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, Go and speak to Zedekiah king of Judah, and tell him, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall burn it with fire. So, some people may ask, why burn it with fire? That's how God says to purify things, is you must burn it with fire. This is why when you give offerings to him of these times of the Israelites, it had to be a burnt offering. It had to be purified. It's the same as at the end time, after the 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth, God is going to burn the earth and destroy everything on it and then rebuild it new. This is what's going to be called the new earth. But it is to purify the earth and make that way he can make it new without any impurities on it. Let's continue on verse 3. And thou shalt not escape out of his hand, but shalt surely be taken and delivered into his hand. And thine eyes shall behold the eyes of the king of Babylon, and he shall speak with thee mouth to mouth, and thou shalt go to Babylon. So God is wanting Zedekiah, the king, to know through Jeremiah that you are going to Babylon. There's no way out of this. So you're going. Don't fight against it and make things worse. This is why, like I said before, God repeats a lot of stuff in the Bible so you understand these are the things that you are to live by. This is how you are to be. This is how you are to act. And he says it over and over and over again. It's not an option. It's not a question. It's a commandment. So that's what he's telling here. This is a commandment from God to you, Zedekiah king. You're going to Babylon, as you're going to be captured and taken and be in front of the king. No ifs, ands, or buts. Verse 4. Yet hear the word of the Lord, O Zedekiah king of Judah. Thus saith the Lord of thee, Thou shalt not die by the sword, but thou shalt die in peace, and with the burnings of thy fathers. The former kings which were before thee, so shall they burn odors for thee, and they will lament thee, saying, Ah, Lord, for I have pronounced the word, saith the Lord. So, we also know from here, and, burning things is not, being cremated is not a sin. So we learn that from here as well. Because it's saying here, like burning of thy fathers, the former kings. And, most of the time what they did is they kept the bones. Burning the bones was very complicated. They couldn't get fires hot enough for that. They burnt everything else off of it and would bury the bones. But, I guess in some sense, since they couldn't get a fire hot enough for that, that's why they normally kept the bones to indicate that they were something special, because the fire couldn't burn them, but they were purified with the fire. I don't really know of all their understandings of that at the time, but that's kind of what they did. But let's continue on verse 6. Then Jeremiah the prophet spake all these words unto Zedekiah king of Judah in Jerusalem. When the king of Babylon's army fought against Jerusalem and against all the cities of Judah that were left, against Lachish and against Azekah, let's go with Azekah. For these defense cities remained of the cities of Judah. This is the word that came unto Jeremiah from the Lord. After that, the king Zedekiah had made a covenant with all the people which were at Jerusalem to proclaim liberty unto them, that every man should let his manservant and every man his maidservant, being an Hebrew or an Hebrewess, go free, that none shall serve himself of them, to wit, of a Jew his brother. Now we're fixing to be coming into why is this, why is it only though Jewish people, Jewish servants were to be freed, but not others. And there's a law for this, that they can only have this servant for 7 years. And they're to be released on this, I think released on the 6th. Like I said, God, it's 7. He uses 7 years, the land rest for a year. 7 years, the servant would go free. Rest on the 7th day. Then you have this 7 times something. Then you have the year of Jubilee. And that's when land would go back to people that, had to sell their land to someone outside of the inheritance. And so we've already covered a lot of these already. And it's just the people don't follow no more. And so, but this is a commandment from God telling the king to tell the people to do this. To do this thing. Verse 10. Now when all the princes and all the people which had entered into the covenant heard that everyone should let his manservant and everyone his maidservant go free, that none should serve themselves of them any more, then they obeyed and let them go. And if we go back to the other parts here, a Hebrew woman originally is not called a Hebrew. That was a man. The Hebrew woman is called a Hebrewess. This word's not used too often, but it is there. It's just not, I don't think I use it at all anymore. Let's continue on, verse 11. But afterward they turned and caused the servants and the handmaids whom they had let go free to return, and brought them into subjection for servants and for handmaids. Therefore the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying. But here we automatically see they were just given a commandment, they did it, and then it says, nope, we're going to undo this. We're going to do it our way. Automatically rejecting God when they've already made a proclamation that they will serve God. And, this is why they're being cast into servitude, because, once you're a lazy person and you've always had people to do stuff for you, it's kind of hard for you to want to do it for yourself now. That's how I see this. It's kind of like these spoiled brats that don't want to get a job and pay their own bills, and they want mommy and daddy to clean the house, cook their meals, buy them clothes, and take care of them their whole lives. They don't want to grow up. They're using their parents as servants. And their parents are allowing them to do it. So we've got a sad generation thinking this way, but lazy is lazy. It's the only thing and disobedient will always be disobedient. You have to choose to want to serve God. You have to choose to want to be a good person. When you do that, God will help you. God will never help you be a bad person. Let's continue on, verse 13. Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, I made a covenant with your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondmen, saying, at the end of 7 years let ye go every man his brother and Hebrew, which hath been sold unto thee. And when he had served thee 6 years, thou shalt let him go free from thee. But your fathers hearkened not unto me, neither inclined their ear. But like I said before, God supports slavery of a punishment. But Hebrews could be punished this way, but it could only be a certain time period. Most of the time for this is they had to pay off a debt. It says, or they would sell themselves because they needed a job. And, this was common. Even today in lots of the parts of the world still do this, that you can sell yourself into servitude for a time period if you can't do better for yourself. And God supports that. For one, it humbles the mess out of you. And two, it gives you ability to live and gives you purpose. Because, as long as you got work, God says if you don't work, you don't eat. So you're not supposed to live free. You're supposed to do things. Unless you just physically can't. But God does not support slavery, forced slavery of innocent people. like I said, he does support it as punishment or voluntary. Let's continue on here, verse 15. And ye were now turned, and had done right in my sight, in proclaiming liberty every man to his neighbor. And ye had made a covenant before me in the house which I called by my name. But ye turned and polluted my name, and caused every man his servant, and every man his handmaid, whom ye had set at liberty at their pleasure, to return, and brought them into subjection, to be unto you for servants and for handmaids. Therefore thus saith the Lord, ye have not hearkened unto me in proclaiming liberty, every one to his brother, and every man to his neighbor. Behold, I proclaim a liberty for you, saith the Lord, to the sword, to the pestilence, and to the famine. And I will make you to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And I will give the men that have transgressed my covenant, which have not performed the words of the covenant which they had made before me, when they cut the calf in twain, and passed between the parts thereof, the princes of Judah and the princes of Jerusalem, the eunuchs and the priests, and all the people of the land, which passed between the parts of the calf. If you don't recall this was quite some time ago in lessons where they did this. I think this is when it happened that the kingdom split, that instead of being all Israel, you have Judah and Israel. And if I remember correctly, that's why the calf was split, indicating the country was split, and certain ones had to pass between, the calves, the two parts of the cow that was cut in half. Yeah, for those vegans who think this is very barbaric, it's meant to be. It's to show people the death and suffering and everything that has to happen so that people can exist on earth, and so that people can, it's what happens to them instead of happening to God's people. So it's like the punishment is being brought upon something living instead of you. And it's supposed to sadden you to have to do these things, but a lot of people just got used to it and says, no big deal. We have a lot of people today that does that very same thing. It's no big deal. But let's continue on there, verse 20. I will even give them into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them that seek their life. And their dead bodies shall be for meat unto the fowls of the heaven, and to the beasts of the earth. So once again, there's a punishment for disobedience. And they promised to obey, and then immediately disobeyed again. And some people always say, well, that's something little. God does not care if it's little or big disobedience. Disobedience is still disobedience. But let's proceed on here. 21. There's only 2 more verses anyways. And Zedekiah king of Judah and his princes will I give into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them that seek their life, and into the hand of the king of Babylon's army, which are gone up from you. So once again, like I always say, though, you don't want to be on the wrong side of God's wrath. Don't want to make him mad, because, he can allow things to happen that won't be peaceful in your life. But I said, it's just weird that, these people were giving so much and this, that, and the other, and they immediately, they're already being taken into captivity. And it's kind of weird that with some people, even though they're taken into captivity, they get to take their servants with them, and their servants serve them while they're also serving. That part always baffled me, but yeah, this did happen from time to time. But verse 22. Behold, I will command, saith the Lord, and cause them to return to this city, and they shall fight against it, and take it, and burn it with fire, and I will make the cities of Judah a desolation without an inhabitant. And that's the end of the chapter. And that's another reason why you don't want to get on the wrong side of God's wrath. You don't want to be there. But today's time, we're under grace instead of the law, which is far better for us. Gives us far more lenience in certain areas. Because the law was, pretty much straightforward, black and white. And it's like, either or, whether we're under the law or under grace, God still means business with what he says. So you don't want to mess around and be, on the wrong side, when your time has come or when Jesus comes. Because you may not have time to repent then and get right with God before it happens. So God always says, be ye ready, for ye not know when the master of the house cometh. And the other commandment we're under today is spread the gospel. Share it with all living things. But I'm going to go ahead and end this lesson here. We're at the 20-minute mark. Doesn't need to be a long lesson today. So once again, it's Wednesday. I got church tonight. And I just got to finish getting ready for it myself. Yep, I got an hour and 10 minutes to get cleaned up and get there. Yeah, I've been helping a neighbor. Helped a neighbor last night, then I helped another neighbor today, and I still had to get my stuff done to take care of my house. I love helping people, but sometimes it does grow weary on you whenever it makes you rush to get your stuff done too while you're trying to help others. But I don't have to help them all the time. But we are put here to help one another. That's another commandment. It's another statute. Love thy neighbor as helping thy neighbor. If you don't show them loving kindness, they may not see it from anyone else. They see it from you and know that you follow Christ, and they don't. Well, it tells them some things. Especially whenever you got people in this world today that deals with so many people calling themselves Christians while they live a hypocrite life, and then they finally come across one or two that don't live a hypocrite life. Then they know it's like, oh, okay, you're one of the real ones instead of the fake ones. There's a lot of worldly people out there. They automatically they'll call you a fake Christian to your face because they say, oh no, you go, they automatically know you're living a hypocrite life. They automatically know what to expect. But, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and end this lesson here. I'm already starting to rant on, not rant, but, run down another rabbit trail speaking about something. And, so, like I always say, remember to pray. Pray for yourself, pray for others, pray for the lost, pray for the found. Pray for churches. We got a lot of lost churches all over this country and this world today. And we got to get back on track. If we don't, these places are going to be on one track while Jesus is on another, and then when the train comes, you're going to be left behind. You don't want that. You want to be ready, always ready to meet the Father. So until next time, God bless, good night, and goodbye.